It went on. Well, thanks. Someone said yay before you heard me talk. I hope you say yay at the end. That would be great. I'm very, very happy to be here, even though I'm not the 4th Bishop of Rockford, Illinois. Come to think of it, I think I'd probably be pretty old if I was the 4th Bishop of Rockford, Illinois. But I am very, very pleased to have this opportunity to be with you. I must say, as you can tell from that, what do you call it, biography or what, that while I come from Boston, I've lived in other places for various times, and by now I don't know if I finally achieved such a mix of different places that I have no Boston accent, or I have no New York accent, or I have no Roman accent. Maybe I could have a Midwest accent when it all gets pushed together at the end of my life. That would be a great gift. It's wonderful to be here with you. I hope that this evening will be helpful to you, and if it isn't, I cannot do with you what I can do when I'm with young people on the World Youth Day. I've been very pleased and privileged by, for the last several World Youth Days since I became Bishop of Rockville Center in 2001. The Holy Father has invited me to be a catechist, and I love being a catechist with young people. And the way that's set up is each morning you gather with a whole group of English-speaking people from all our young people from all around the world, and they have kind of a warm-up, and I want you to look on Bishop Beloy as the warm-up, okay? He was the icebreaker, so that I can feel very much at home with you. And then I have to get up and do my catechesis. Now, during the catechesis, the custom is that there are also priests around who can hear confessions. And what I usually tell the young people is, you know when you go to Mass and the priest talks on and on and on, and you're saying to yourself, I just hope he comes to an end. In fact, you'd say, maybe I could just get up and walk out. This is your chance. You can walk out as long as you go to confession. And you know what, it works. Because they do walk out, but more importantly, they go to confession. So tonight, I hope none of you will walk out, but I do hope that what I can share with you is of some interest to you and might be able to give you a little bit of a sense of the importance of this Constitution, the dogmatic Constitution on the Church, LUMEN, GENTIUM, which takes its name obviously from the first 2 words of the document, which is customary in papal documents and documents of councils. Jesus Christ is the light to all the nations. That's the most important thing we have to learn. It's Jesus Christ who is the light to all the nations. He alone is the Savior. He alone is the one who brings life and light. He alone is the one in whom we have life, because he alone is the one through whom we have been redeemed, in whom we have salvation. And so, rightly, when we talk about the church, everything we say about the church is rooted in Jesus Christ. And what I'm going to try to do today, this is the first time I've ever used PowerPoint in my life. And so, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, it's your fault. Or whoever is handling this thing. Let me say, as an apology, the person who's handling these knows that there are 2 places where it says picture. And unfortunately, I couldn't find the picture. So that's my first thing. Secondly, if I get ahead of this, when someone say, you're going too fast, or if I'm behind them, say, go faster. Now, if you all say go faster at once, I get the hint, all right? Back in 1958, January 25th, the newly elected Pope, John the 23rd, went over to St. Paul's outside the walls, and this is one of the pictures I don't have, and he announced, after the eve evening of Vespers that you and I just prayed together, he called the cardinals who were there into the cloister, which is just off to the right of the basilica, in a room called now the Sala Babbo. And he said to them, I want you to be the first to know I've decided to call an ecumenical council. And if I have the picture, which I couldn't find, you will see the picture of Pope John standing there with this glow in his eyes and a smile on his face, with the excitement of someone who's about to begin a new adventure, and the cardinals are looking at him like this. They're not happy. They don't know what this means. And they're a little bit afraid of what it was going to be. He hit them like a thunderbolt. And the same was true probably for bishops around the world. At the same time, the bishops of the United States, the cardinals of the United States, were dedicating the upper basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. And I also have another picture I couldn't find, in which they're all outside, and they looked like most bishop at the time. Not a smile on anyone's face. Why? Nobody knew what it was going to mean. But the Pope had asked for it. And as the Church should and must and always will have to do, we respond to the Holy Father, because he is the vicar of Christ, because he is the Bishop of Rome, because he is our leader, and in him we place our trust. But so that then there began this whole series of what they call pre-preparatory commissions. That means they don't even know what they're going to do, but they got to set out on the road and discover what it is that they have to do to be able to get around to doing what they're supposed to do. And on October 8th, in 1962, some 4 years after he made the announcement, the Second Vatican Council was convened on a rainy morning, and Father Tom Jellick and I are probably the only two who were there in this room. But we were there, and I snuck in because I saw an old English bishop who could barely walk, and I went up to him and I said, "Let me help you." And the Swiss guy said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm the secretary to this poor bishop who can't walk," okay? So I got in. And if you look at that famous picture of the whole council, if that was taken on the day when they have all of the benches set up on both sides of the nave, I'm there. And if you can find me, would you call me, please? At any rate, no one foresaw on October 8, 1962, that this council would take 4 sessions and 4 years to be completed. In fact, in Rome, the hope generally in the Vatican was that maybe we could do this all in a couple of weeks and send them all home. That didn't happen. But everything that was prepared at that time was prepared with that idea in mind. And those who were in the pre-preparatory commissions were, for the most part, and you can understand it's natural, the experts were taken from the Roman universities, and the major people who made bishops and made up the commission were the bishops who worked in Rome. So they had their own kind of thing about what exactly was going to happen. And yet at the very first session, in the very first week, it got exploded. And the bishop said, "Wait a minute, we want to have more control over this whole thing than just coming here to approve something that was written here in Rome." It wasn't said as an attack on the Holy Father or a disagreement with the Pope. It was said in the fact that the bishops wanted to be able to share their pastoral life with the Vicar of Christ, with the Bishop of Rome, and to bring together a truly collegial experience of the life of the Church. For us seminarians at the North American College, these were 4 years that were extraordinarily exciting. I can attest to the fact that during the council, we seminarians were really brought alive, not just in terms of the fact that we met a lot of bishops. That's kind of, after you do that a few times, you've done that, okay? But rather because we sensed that there was something in the air that was new. And there were so many extraordinary men and women present in Rome at that time that you almost couldn't help meeting people with a wide variety of ideas, with a great vision for the future, and above all, with a great love for the church. And so, as we went forward, one of the most important issues in the church was what in the council was the church going to say about herself. And gradually, as the various commissions began to meet and did their work, and gradually as the kind of shape of the council began to develop, there were developed what they called schemata, various, we'd call them today, preliminary drafts that were developed and presented as statements for the council fathers to debate and to vote upon. And the idea was that they would be debated, voted upon, and submitted to the Holy Father, and then with his authority, after having listened to them, this would become part of the teaching of the church as the church moved forward. Now, John the 23rd said something very interesting. And perhaps Bishop Kennedy went into this with you, so I won't dwell upon it. He said, in contrast to some of the other councils of the past almost 2,000 years of the church, we're not meeting in a time of crisis where there has been an attack on the church's teaching that has to be responded to in such a way that we, the fathers of the church, the bishops who teach the church, will have to define what is the truth that the church teaches in fidelity to Christ and what can no longer be accepted as truth because for some reason it falls short of what Jesus teaches and who Jesus is. And you recall the most famous of all is the Council of Nicaea in 325. When the debate that had gone on was, how is Jesus related to the Father? Is he just like the Father, or is he different? Is he just like us, or is he different? And that debate went on for over 100 years. And the trouble was they couldn't find the right word. And then finally, in Nicaea, they all gathered together, all the bishops at that time, in the 4th century. And Athanasius of Alexandria was the one who came in first as a deacon and later as a bishop. And he said, Jesus is of the same substance as the Father. Nobody had ever used that word before. And they got to scratch their head. Well, what do you mean? He said, well, listen to what Arius, who got it wrong, is asking. Arius is asking the right question. Does Jesus belong to the order of the Creator? Or does he belong to the order of us creatures? Arius got the right question, but he had the wrong answer. Because he said he's the most perfect person who ever lived. He is the most like God the Father that we'll ever know. Wrong. But how are you going to say it? And it was Athanasius who said, the word that says it is homoousion. That Jesus is homoousios to theou, of the same consubstantial reality as the Father. So therefore he is divine. Because if he isn't divine, then he couldn't have redeemed us. But because he's one with us, whatever he redeems, including us, is truly redeemed. You see how that works? Isn't that great? Isn't that extraordinary? And so that's what councils have done. John the 23rd said, we're not in a crisis situation in which someone is denying some essential aspect of what Jesus has passed on to us and that the church has taught. But we do have to, as a pastoral, as the church which needs to be shepherded by Jesus Christ, we do have to have a council in which we do two things. And the words he used, one was French and the other one was Italian, excuse me. The French word was ressourcement, we have to go back to the early church and discover the roots of our faith. And we have to go forward a giornamento to bring it into, at that point, the 20th century. And as I said to you, most everybody thought that there just needed to be one session or two, they'd wrap up the work and everybody would go home. Only later, in the second session, did it become clear that there were so many things that had to be discussed that it couldn't be a quick 3 or 4 weeks in Rome and then go home. It had to be a more protracted, prayerful, reflective, debated, discussed, draft after draft, hard, day-by-day work, placing it before the Holy Spirit. And a major reason for that is what we're going to talk about tonight. Namely, the schema called De Ecclesia about the church became the foremost issue in the debates of the Council Fathers. All the other debates had in the background or in the foreground, what do we say about the church? What do we say about ourselves? As the council unfolded, it became clear that LUMEN, what we now call LUMEN GENTIUM, would be the most important document to come out of the council because it is the key to interpreting all the other documents. I'll give you an example. Bishop Hainsbach of Essen, Germany, first bishop of Essen. He was working on the laity. He was chairman of a commission to talk about the lay faithful, most of you who are sitting here tonight. And as they had their own little group and they were talking, it became clear to them that whatever they were going to say about the lay faithful had to be able to refer back to what was going to be said about the church. Does that make sense? You folks are lay faithful because, like me, like the bishop, like the priest, we're people because we're the people of God because we were baptized, all of us are. And so it became clear that the foundation point was the doctrine of the church. Another example of that is as they got toward the third session, there was a big movement to say, we're talking too much about our life internal to the church. We've got to look at the world around us. And Nancy Wistow is going to talk with you about that when she comes in a couple of months. And she's terrific. You're going to love her. She's a great gal. She will be able to show you how a group of people started to say, there's the church on inside, there's the church on extra, outside the doors of the church building. What are we going as church here inside the building going to say and offer to the world outside the building? And that became what was called Schema 17, then it became Schema 13, and ultimately it became the pastoral constitution, notice the difference, dogmatic and pastoral constitution on the church in the world. I give you that as two examples to come to my first conclusion. And I'll stick by it no matter what you say to me afterwards. Lumen Gentium, the constitution of the church, is the most important document and the key to understanding the council and its influence on the church these past 50 years. Now, how are we going to proceed? First of all, relax. I'm not going to give you a page-by-page encounter. We're not going to go through a document that has about, in the Flannery edition, goes from page 350 to page 426. I wouldn't do that to anybody. But second, I'm not going to try to push a particular point of view. I will say to you very honestly, just by way of example, the National Catholic Reporter and their columnists don't get it right. Neither does the Wanderer or the Society of St. Pius X. I'm going to stick to the text using 2 points. One made by John Paul II, Blessed John Paul, and the other by Pope Benedict, our Holy Father. Blessed John Paul's point is this. If you want to understand the council, you don't have to talk about the Spirit. You don't have to talk about what someone told you or what you read in the newspaper.